Most people look at their garden in August and think, well, that's basically it for the year. The tomatoes are winding down, there are bare patches everywhere, and there's this general feeling that it's time to start cleaning up and calling it quits. Here's the thing, that mindset is costing you an entire second harvest, one that in a lot of ways is better than the first. The soil is still warm enough to wake up seeds fast, but the air is about to cool down enough to make everything you grow more tender and more flavorful than anything you pulled in July. This window is real, but it's not permanent. Some of these plants can shrug off a frost. Others need to be finished and off the vine before the first cold night shows up. And one plant on this list gives you almost no room for error. Plant it even a week late, and you could lose the entire harvest to the calendar. Let's get into all 15, starting from the bottom. Number 15, green onions. Green onions are never going to be the plant your neighbor leans over the fence to ask about. They don't bulk up, they don't produce a dramatic root, and they don't need a trellis or a big patch of ground. But pound for pound, they might be the single most used vegetable on this entire list, because they go on everything: eggs, noodles, rice bowls, baked potatoes, soup, tacos, you name it. The appeal isn't one big harvest day. It's having a constant supply just outside your back door. Seed them directly into the ground now. In warm August soil, sprouts usually show up within about 2 weeks, though the plant needs more time after that to bulk up to full size. You can start snipping the thin young leaves earlier than that though, so don't wait for done. The seeds are tiny and the seedlings are fragile at first, and this is where most people lose the row. If the surface dries out even once during germination, you'll get a thin, patchy stand instead of a solid row. Keep that top inch of soil consistently damp until you see green. The technique that stretches your harvest way out: don't pull the whole plant. Use scissors and cut the tops, leaving about an inch of the base in the ground. That base often pushes out a fresh round of growth as long as conditions stay decent. Stagger a second sowing about 10 days after the first, and then maybe a third 10 days after that, and you'll have green onions rolling in from late September well into October, sometimes longer if your fall stays mild. Green onions aren't flashy, but sometimes the most valuable plant in the garden is the one that's simply always ready the second you need it. Number 14, baby bok choy. If you're the kind of gardener who hates waiting around, bok choy might be the most satisfying plant on this whole list. While slower crops are still deciding whether to germinate, bok choy can already be showing up in your stir-fry. A lot of varieties let you start pulling baby leaves in around 3 weeks, which makes it one of the fastest paybacks an August garden can offer. But speed isn't the only reason to plant it now. In hot weather, bok choy tends to bolt almost immediately. It sends up a flower stalk, the leaves toughen up, and the whole plant gets bitter fast. Plant it into cooling weather instead. It just doesn't do that. It stays crisp, mild, and pleasant for way longer than a summer-planted version ever could. The most common mistake is letting the heads get too big before harvesting. Small heads, roughly 4 to 5 inches, are consistently more tender than anything left to size all the way up, especially if there's still a warm stretch in the forecast. Harvest by cutting just above the base, and if the growing point wasn't damaged, you'll often get a second smaller flush before the season really shuts down. Don't dump the whole seed packet in one sitting. Sow a short row now, another one in a week and a half, and you'll get a steady trickle of tender baby heads instead of one overwhelming harvest all at once. Number 13, kohlrabi. First time you see kohlrabi growing, it looks like something that wandered in from a different garden entirely. There's a round, pale green orb sitting right on top of the soil, with leaves shooting out of it in every direction, and it genuinely confuses people who've never seen it before. Here's the twist: that round part isn't a root at all. It's a swollen stem. And despite looking complicated, it might be one of the easiest vegetables on this list to actually eat. Peel it, slice it thin, done. Raw, it's crisp and juicy, somewhere between a broccoli stem and an apple that isn't trying too hard to be sweet. August works well for kohlrabi because the stem prefers to bulk up in cooler conditions. Most varieties take somewhere in the 50 to 60 day range, which lines up nicely. The seed germinates in still warm soil, and the real growth spurt happens as temperatures ease off in September. Spacing matters more than people expect. Crowd the plants and you'll end up with plenty of leafy growth, but disappointing, undersized bulbs. Thin early and give the strongest plants real room. And whatever you do, don't chase size. Kohlrabi is at its best pulled young, somewhere around the size of a tennis ball. Past that, the interior starts turning fibrous and woody fast, and there's no walking that back. There's a purple skin version and a pale green one, and honestly the flavor difference is minor. The purple one is mostly just there to make your garden bed look more interesting. Number 12. Loose leaf lettuce. If your summer lettuce turned bitter, sent up a flower stalk, and basically ruined itself before you got 2 decent salads out of it, that's not a lettuce problem, that's a timing problem. Lettuce hates growing into rising heat. It reads long, hot days as a signal to rush toward flowering, and the leaves pay the price for that rush by turning bitter and tough. Fall-planted lettuce runs in the opposite direction. It's growing toward cooler weather, not away from it, and the leaves stay sweeter and more tender the whole way through. The one real obstacle is getting the seed to sprout at all. Lettuce seed can actually go dormant in soil that's too warm, which is why some people sow, water diligently, and see absolutely nothing come up. The seed usually isn't dead, it's just waiting for better conditions. Trick the soil into cooling down faster. Pick a spot that gets some afternoon shade, water before sowing, plant shallow, and lay something light, straw, a thin cloth, shade netting, over the row to slow evaporation and knock a few degrees off the surface temperature. Once seedlings are up and a couple inches tall, they handle the rest of the summer heat fine on their own. It's germination that's the fragile part. Go with leaf lettuce or slow bolt varieties for this planting rather than the tighter heading types. They're more forgiving, and you can harvest by pulling outer leaves while the center keeps producing. Some varieties give you baby leaves in under a month. If lettuce has burned you before, it's probably not a you problem. It might have just been waiting for the right season to actually cooperate. Number 11. Spicy mustard greens. Mustard greens are not a shy vegetable. Grown in the middle of summer heat, the leaves can be aggressively peppery, sharp enough that a first bite genuinely surprises people who weren't expecting it. That's not the only version of this plant, though. Grown into cooler fall days, the heat is still there, but it mellows out, and a little sweetness starts showing up behind it. The leaves end up much more balanced. They're a fast grower. Many varieties give you tender baby leaves in around 3 weeks and reach full cooking size in a month to 6 weeks. Timing matters for flavor, though. If it's still brutally hot where you are, hold off sowing until the back half of August. Or find a spot with some afternoon shade so the roots can establish before the leaves take off. You can use them 2 completely different ways. Small, young leaves are great raw in a salad. Mild, a little peppery, interesting without being overwhelming. Larger leaves are better cooked. Sautéing or steaming softens that sharp edge while keeping the deeper flavor underneath. Harvest the outer leaves first and let the center keep producing new growth. Keep watering consistent. Big swings between bone-dry and soaked soil stress the plant and tend to make the leaves both tougher and spicier, not the direction you want. One well-timed sowing can keep producing right through September and into October. Mustard greens aren't for people who want every vegetable in the garden to taste gentle and polite. They're for people who want the garden to have a little personality, and cooler weather doesn't remove that personality, it just refines it. Number 10. Beets. Most people think growing beets is entirely about waiting for a root to swell up underground. Anyone who's grown them a few times knows there's actually a second harvest hiding in plain sight. The greens on top are fully edible, and they're ready weeks before the root is. Young beet leaves taste a bit like spinach but deeper, with an earthy note underneath. Snip a portion for a salad or a quick sauté with garlic. Just don't strip the plant bare. It still needs those leaves to keep feeding the root growing below. The root itself usually takes somewhere around 50 to 70 days, depending on the variety. Sowing now means germination happens while the soil's still warm, and the actual root development happens through the cooler weeks of fall, which is exactly when beets develop their best, sweetest flavor. Grown in heat, they tend to taste flatter and more one-note. One thing that catches new gardeners off guard: what looks like a single beet seed is actually a small cluster, so it's common to get 2 or 3 seedlings sprouting from one spot. Leave them all crowded together, and every root stays small and stunted. Thin early, and don't just toss what you pull. Those baby seedlings work great as microgreens instead of going in the compost. Keep an eye on the top of the root as it starts poking up above the soil line. That's your visual cue for sizing without having to dig around and disturb things. Pull when it hits the size the seed packet recommends. Leave it too long, and the texture turns woody and the sweetness drops off. There's a striped variety worth looking for that reveals rings of pink and white when you slice it open. It doesn't taste hugely different, but it makes cutting open dinner feel like a small event. Number 9. Broccoli. Broccoli gets a bad reputation it hasn't really earned. It's usually not a difficult plant, it's just planted at the wrong time, over and over. Spring-planted broccoli spends a few weeks building leaves, and then right when it needs to form a tight head slowly, early summer heat slams in instead. The result is a small, loose head that yellows or starts flowering open before it's ever worth eating. And a lot of gardeners write the whole crop off as too hard. The plant isn't the problem. The season is. Broccoli wants to form its head in cool weather, and a late summer planting hands it exactly that. For an August start, use transplants rather than direct seeding this late. A transplant with a handful of true leaves already has a head start on using the last of summer's warmth to bulk up its stem and foliage before the head-forming stage kicks in during September or October, when the temperature actually cooperates. Check the seed packet or plant tag carefully, because days to maturity is often counted from transplant date, not the original sowing date, and mixing those up throws off your whole timeline. Harvest when the head is firm and the individual buds are still small and tightly closed. Don't wait around hoping for a little extra size once things start loosening up, because that window closes fast. And here's the part a lot of people miss. Once you cut the main head, leave the plant in the ground. Smaller side shoots keep forming at the leaf joints for weeks afterward. They're not as big as the first head, but they're just as tasty, and it turns one broccoli plant into multiple harvests instead of one. Number 8. Watermelon radish. Quick detour before we get to the fast little radishes further down this list. If you want something with more size and staying power in storage, a larger radish variety planted now has enough runway left in the season to size up properly before frost. These take longer, generally in the 50 to 60-day range, but the payoff is a milder, almost sweet flavor by the time you pull them, especially once cooler nights are in the mix. Give them deep, loose soil. Rocky or compacted ground is the #1 cause of forked or twisted roots. The root hits resistance underground and just splits or bends around it instead of growing straight down. If your soil's heavy clay, loosen it a solid 8 to 10 inches deep before sowing, or consider a raised bed or large container instead. Thin these earlier than you think you need to. Crowding is the second most common failure point. Plants packed too close will still grow leaves just fine, but the roots stay small and undersized. Leave real spacing, closer to what a full-size beet would need than what you'd give a quick round radish. These store far longer than the fast varieties too, so if part of your goal is having something to pull from the root cellar or fridge crisper well into winter, this is the radish that earns its place on the list. Number 7. Spinach. Spring spinach is always racing a clock it can't win. It barely gets a few rounds of leaves going before the days lengthen, temperatures climb, and a flower stalk shoots up, and once that happens, the leaves turn bitter fast and the harvest is basically over. Sown at the end of summer, spinach runs in the exact opposite direction. It's growing toward fall, not away from it, which is exactly the kind of season it actually wants. The obstacle is getting it started. Spinach seed germinates poorly in soil that's still hot, so sowing it in full blazing August sun is setting yourself up to fail. Wait for the second half of the month if it's still scorching where you live. Pick a spot with some afternoon shade, water the bed before sowing, and keep the surface evenly damp the entire time it's trying to sprout. Some gardeners go a step further and pre-sprout the seed in a damp paper towel somewhere cool before transferring it into the soil. It looks like extra effort, but it dramatically improves your germination rate. Once seedlings are up and have a few true leaves, the hard part's over. Falling temperatures push the plant to focus on leaf production instead of bolting toward flowers. Baby leaves are often ready in around a month. Harvest by taking outer leaves and letting the center keep producing, or sow it thick and cut the whole young plant at once for a single baby leaf harvest. Look for varieties labeled slow bolt. They're built for exactly this kind of seasonal transition. But even the best variety can't save you from soil that's too hot and dry. Timing beats variety selection here, every time. Number 6. Swiss chard. Chard doesn't get much attention online, but it might quietly outlast almost everything else on this list. It's tough, It barely slows down as temperatures drop, and it just keeps producing for months on end without much drama. Harvest the outer leaves and let the center keep growing. And one planting can genuinely feed you well into late fall, sometimes longer in a mild climate. Sow it now while the soil's still warm enough for quick germination, and it'll have plenty of time to build a strong root system before the cold really sets in. The stems come in a wider color range than most people expect: deep red, bright yellow, hot pink. So even a small patch of chard ends up looking more ornamental than functional, which is a nice bonus if you're growing in a spot people actually see. The rib down the center of a mature leaf can get a little tough, so if you're cooking the bigger leaves, strip that rib out first and cook it a bit longer than the leafy part, or chop it and toss it in early since it takes more time to soften than the greens do. Chard is the plant that doesn't need babying, doesn't need perfect timing, and just quietly keeps delivering while flashier vegetables come and go around it. Number 5. Carrots. Carrots test your patience before the plant even shows up. The seed is tiny, it's sown shallow, and it can take 2 to 3 weeks just to germinate. And in August, that stretch is the hardest part of the whole process. The soil surface can dry out in a matter of hours in the heat, and once a seed has absorbed water and then dries back out before finishing germination, it's usually done for. That's how a carrot row ends up thin, patchy, or completely empty. The fix isn't dumping a ton of water on it once a day. What carrot seed actually wants is light, frequent moisture. Water gently with a fine spray so you're not washing the tiny seeds out of position, and consider covering the row with a damp cloth or a thin board for the first several days to keep the surface from baking in direct sun. Just check under it every morning, and the second you spot sprouts, get that covering off so the seedlings get light. Thin early once they're up. Carrots packed too close together compete for space underground and end up bent, forked, or just small. Nobody gets a nice straight root out of an overcrowded row. Loose, stone-free soil helps a lot too. Rocks and hard clumps are what cause forking more than almost anything else. Here's the payoff for all that patience. Carrots pulled after a few genuinely cold nights taste noticeably sweeter than the same variety grown and pulled in the heat. That's not folklore. The plant converts stored starches into sugar as a defense against the cold, and you get to eat the result. Pull one, rinse it off, take a bite right there in the garden. It tastes almost nothing like what you'd get at a grocery store, and that difference alone is worth the 3 weeks of waiting at the start. Number 4. Collard greens. Collards are the toughest plant on this entire list, full stop. While more delicate crops are winding down or getting knocked back by the first real cold snap, collards are just hitting their stride. The leaves are big, the plant is sturdy, and it can keep standing and producing long after most of the garden has gone quiet. Start with transplants if your fall season tends to be short. Sowing seed directly this late doesn't leave much margin. Give each plant real room. Collards get much bigger than most first-time growers expect, and crowding them cuts off airflow and forces the plants to compete hard for water and nutrients. Harvest from the bottom up. Take the lowest, oldest leaves first and leave the center intact. The plant keeps pushing new growth from the top, and the stem actually gets taller with each round of harvesting, almost like it's climbing upward as the season goes on. One healthy plant can realistically keep producing for months if the weather doesn't turn brutal. The big leaves hold up well to slow cooking, braising, or being used as a wrap in place of a tortilla. Younger leaves need way less prep and can go into a stir-fry without much fuss. The central rib on a mature leaf is tough enough that most people strip it out before cooking. And here's the best part, a light frost doesn't damage collards. It improves them. The cold triggers the same sugar conversion response you get with carrots and kale, and the flavor goes from slightly sharp to genuinely sweet and mellow. This is one of the few crops in the whole garden where you're actually rooting for that first frost to show up. Number 3. Snap radishes. If you need proof right now that fall planting actually works, this is it. Small, round radish varieties can be ready to pull in as little as 3 weeks, one of the fastest turnarounds of anything on this entire list. Seeds germinate quickly in warm soil, often within just a few days, and the plant matures fast as temperatures start easing off through September. The catch is that the harvest window is short. Leave a mature radish in the ground even a few extra days, and it can turn hollow, spongy, or aggressively hot, way sharper than you'd want. So keep track of when you sowed, check the days to maturity on the packet, and once the shoulder of the root starts pushing up above the soil surface, pull one and check it before committing to harvesting the whole row. The move that keeps you from getting buried in radishes all at once. Sow a short row now, another one about a week to 10 days later, and another after that. Instead of one overwhelming harvest, you get a steady trickle spread out over several weeks, which is honestly a much better way to actually use them all before they go to waste. Radishes aren't the most cold-hardy plant on this list, and they're definitely not the biggest. But they offer exactly what an August garden needs most, a fast, satisfying win that proves the season isn't actually over. Number 2. Cauliflower. Cauliflower doesn't forgive the way a lot of the other plants on this list do. Broccoli gives you side shoots as a backup. Kale keeps producing leaves, even through uneven growth. Cauliflower generally gives you one shot. The head forms once, in the center of the plant, and it needs steady, stable conditions the entire way through. Even a short stretch of stress, a dry spell, or a sudden heat spike can cause the head to form too small, too loose, or too early, and there's no fixing it after the fact. That's exactly why pulling off a good cauliflower harvest feels like a bigger win than most other vegetables. Use a strong transplant for an August start rather than direct seeding this late. A transplant with a handful of true leaves and a sturdy stem has a real head start. Most varieties need somewhere around 60 to 90 days from transplanting, so check your first expected frost date carefully before committing to this one. In a region with an early frost, August might genuinely be your last realistic window. Transplant on a cool, cloudy afternoon if you can, to reduce shock, water thoroughly right after, and mulch around the base to keep moisture levels steady and buffer the soil temperature. Cauliflower especially hates going from bone dry to suddenly flooded. Consistency is what it wants more than anything else. Some varieties need the developing head shielded from direct sun to keep its color pale. Folding a few outer leaves loosely over the top does the job. Just check on it regularly, since trapped moisture under there can lead to rot. Self-blanching varieties skip this step entirely if you'd rather not fuss with it. Harvest while the head is still firm and tight, before the individual sections start separating from each other. A delay of only a few days at this stage can noticeably drop the quality. This one's near the top of the list not because it's the hardest to grow, but because pulling off a clean, tight, white head in the middle of a fall garden is genuinely one of the more satisfying wins a home gardener can have. Number 1. Bush beans. Every other vegetable on this list gets better with cold weather. This one is the exact opposite. Bush beans are a warm season plant, and they're sprinting to finish everything before frost shows up and ends the whole thing overnight. A single light frost can wipe out the entire planting in one night. No warning, no second chance. That's why this plant demands action instead of at some point this month. Most bush bean varieties need somewhere around 45 to 65 days before they start producing pods. But don't just count exactly to your first frost date and call it good. As days shorten and nights cool down, growth naturally slows. So build in a buffer of at least 1 to 2 weeks beyond whatever the seed packet says. If a variety needs 55 days and you've only got 60 frost-free days left, that's a genuinely risky bet. 70 or 75 days remaining gives you a much safer margin. Sow the seed directly. Beans don't transplant well. They don't like their roots disturbed. Follow the spacing on the packet. Water enough to keep things moist without waterlogging the bed. And once flowering starts, keep the moisture consistent. A dry spell right at flowering time causes blossoms to drop, which directly means fewer pods later. Just try not to soak the foliage late in the day, since leaves that stay wet overnight are more prone to disease. Harvest while the pods are long and firm, but before the seeds inside start bulging noticeably. If you leave mature pods hanging on the plant, it shifts energy toward finishing those seeds instead of producing new flowers. Pick regularly, and the plant keeps pushing out more. This is why bush beans earn the number 1 spot. Every other plant on this list is waiting for the cold to arrive so it can hit its best flavor. Bush beans are racing to get everything done before that same cold shows up and shuts the whole thing down. Get the timing right, and you get one final fresh harvest of beans right at the edge of the season. Get it wrong, and you'll end up with healthy, green, completely empty plants the morning after the first frost. Every other vegetable on this list can wait a few days. This one can't. August doesn't mean the season's ending. It means the season is changing shape. Every plant on this list is just waiting on you to hand it the right timing. So don't look at those bare, tired patches in your garden bed as proof that things are winding down. Look at them as unclaimed space for one more round of something good before winter shuts the door. Pull up your first frost date. Check the days to maturity on whatever seed packet you're holding and get something into the ground this week, not next week. Which one are you planting first? Drop it in the comments along with your growing zone. And subscribe if you want more of this, because fall gardening season is really just getting started.